Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm going to be reacting to Sadhguru at NALSAR, Youth and Talk, Full Talk. So this was a request. If you have a request, please leave it in the comments below. Please leave the title of the video, the channel, and the length. That way I can search for it. If you put the link, it might get put for held for review and I won't see it. So this is a long one, and let's just go ahead and get started. I kind of like these things where they ask questions to Sadhguru and he answers them because they're generally very specific and interesting questions he generally asked as well.
Namaskaram, and this Youth and Truth, how it came about is, in the last 3 decades that I've been active with people, this has been a constant refrain that many people, thousands of them, have said the same thing. It's a bit… can you move this little away from me, please? They've been asking the same question. They keep telling me, Sadhguru, 25 years ago, where were you? When I was 20, why didn't you come? You come when I'm 60. If you had come when I was 20, I would have changed my life. But now you come too late. So I decided we'll step out and meet all those people who are below 25 years of age, and that's why we are here.
What about those who are 26? Also, you can't blame Sadhguru for that. I mean, come on. You have to take responsibility for your life, and it's not like Sadhguru knew that, like, oh, he's out there, but I'll just wait another year or so. Yeah, he doesn't know these things, he just so happens to do them.
Because what we are referring to as life, I'm shouting a little bit. What we are referring to as life is essentially a certain combination of time and energy. We can make many things out of it, but essentially this life is a certain amount of time and certain amount of energy. Time is rolling away for all of us at the same time. It's rolling away at the same pace. If you sit, it goes, if you stand, it goes, if you work, it goes, if you just sleep, it goes, awake or asleep. Time is rolling away. It's the energy that we can manage. When you're youthful, or when you're in that segment of life which is referred to as youth, this is the time when your energies are at their peak and they're at their highest. Most youth do not understand this, that this level of energy, the intensity of energy is with you only in this stage of life. It's not going to last for a long time. Most youth will not understand this right now. But you must look at the older people and see, they were also youth and it's happened to them and it's going to happen to you. So when your energies are at its peak, if you can bring a little more clarity and balance into your life, this energy could become a phenomenal force both for yourself and for the society and the country and the world that we live in. So it's in this context that this Youth and Truth has been launched. We hope that we will be able to bring some sense of clarity and balance into your life. After this is over, this is going on for about 3 to 4 months after this is over, we will also offer tools for transformation which will be available for all of you free of cost. It doesn't cost anything. Certain people are sponsoring these things, so it is going to go out on the platforms that we have, the online platforms. Simple things that you can do with your body and your mind so that your body and your mind never works against you. When I say your body and your mind never works against you, people are calling it by many names. People call it stress, anxiety, misery, madness, whatever you want to call it. All these things are essentially this, that your intelligence has somehow turned against you, that's all there is. Yes? If your intelligence turns against you, there is no force in the universe which can save you. So it's very important at this stage in your life, you make your body and your mind in such a way, your intelligence and your energy never works against you. There are enough people in the world to work against you. Leave it to them. You don't have to work against yourself. See, right now the situation is this. Most people don't need any enemies. They're doing fine by themselves. I don't want you to be one of them. Please. I'm in the dock today, so
Sadhguru, it's nice to have you here. I hope we have an interesting and insightful discussion with you. And thanks for the audience for coming in such large numbers. So as moderators, we have prepared about 12 questions, of which one is a social media question. A significant portion of these questions are contemporary issues debated across the nation and especially at NALSAR, so we've made sure that we ask them. The breakup would be about 1 hour would be the moderator discussion, and 40 minutes of 40 minutes we leave it to the audience to ask questions. One thing to point out here is that when all three of the moderators personally met Sadhguru about half an hour ago, he told us to be completely fearless in the kind of questions we can ask him with absolutely no restriction. So thanks for that, sir, and we'll make sure we do that.
because a question can never be wrong. Only an answer can be wrong. So only I have a problem, you don't have, so.
So some of these questions are contextual, so we'll make sure that we explain the context so even the audience understands where this discussion is going, and then we'll proceed with the question. Fine, so I think we'll start with the first question.
I will say, I've never heard that said before, that a question can never be wrong, only an answer. I've never ever thought about it that way, but that's kind of hilarious. I've heard of people say there's no stupid questions. Obviously there are. There are still questions, you're not wrong, but they can be stupid. But that's kind of funny, there's no wrong question. I mean, there are questions that seems wrong, but it's a question, not an answer.
So, Sadhguru, shall we begin?
Yes, sir.
So, I thought a good way to begin the conversation would be to pick up a question on first impressions.
How did you foresee I will come in red today?
Just a coincidence, I didn't foresee it. So, I thought a good way to begin the conversation would be to pick up a question on first impressions. So, I mean, both you and I would have heard the popular phrases, little knowledge is dangerous knowledge, and don't judge the book by its cover.
Little knowledge is dangerous knowledge? I've never heard that phrase before, but I've heard don't judge a book by its cover.
So how do you weigh these expressions when we think of the concept of first impressions? As I understand it, first impressions are mental images that we create when we see someone or hear someone, and the first interaction that we have with that person. So, and it's also possible that our first impressions are wrong.
Oh, so is that what he meant by little knowledge is dangerous knowledge? I wouldn't say dangerous, but not necessarily correct. Dangerous, that's really a bit harsh to say that. Because a little knowledge is a good thing. That's better than no knowledge. Having no knowledge is something that you're trying to do is dangerous. Because if you're trying to do something and you have no knowledge of it, that is very dangerous. But if you have little knowledge of it, well, it's better than no knowledge. But I may be going too deep in that. So is that something that's said over there? Or wherever, I'm guessing in India, because I've not heard little knowledge is dangerous. I've heard first impressions, the never judge a book by its cover.
So are first impressions something which confuse your mind, or is it something which gives you initial clarity? So, and why is it that, I mean, how do we control our mind from racing
That's a
to these
long
conclusions?
Yeah, no, dude, it's like, dude, you had it there enough. That's good enough. So, first impressions. I definitely do believe in don't necessarily judge a book by its cover. We have to understand we do have biases no matter what. No matter how much you say that I try not to judge a book by its cover. I think that, in my opinion, the better way is to understand that you're going to have biases towards a person. You are going to judge someone based on the book cover. You're going to judge someone based on by their looks, how they act, and all of that. The only thing I will say is that acknowledge the fact that you're biased or you're judging them by the book cover, but do not treat them that way, because I do believe that judging a book by its cover is a survival instinct. Something that I know Sadhguru talks a lot about, how our bodies are very much in tune to survival. Because it's kind of like if you see a snake, you don't know if it's a venomous snake or not. So you're gonna say, nope, not gonna go touch it, not gonna do anything to it. I'm out. It's probably poisonous. It's safer to assume it's poisonous. I'm gone. You're not gonna sit there and go pet the snake and get bitten. Like, well, I mean, it might not be poisonous. I'll find out later. You know, no. We have this judgment for survival reasons. Plants. Whenever someone touches a plant and you see the person touch the plant, all of a sudden he starts convulsing and dies. You're like, oh, don't touch that plant, or any plants that look like that. And you go to another plant, it's like, that looks like it. So better to be safe not to touch it. Judging a book by its cover initially, right there, it's a survival instinct. Again, in my opinion, acknowledge the fact that you are being judgmental. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. Just don't act on that judgment. Have that in the back of your mind and just be courteous to the person. See how they act, get to know them better, and then judge them accordingly. Is it wrong to judge a book by its cover? That's hard to say, because you know, if you see someone that looks like they're trouble, you you may not want to hang out with them, but you are judging a book by its cover. But try not to. Get to really know them. It's really honestly hard to kind of have not a bias towards anyone based on exactly how they look. Someone could look very professional looking, and it could be drug dealers or criminals. Someone could look like they came out of the you know, like a bad guy movie or whatever, but they're really nice. You know, you'll have that bias or that judgment, but try to get to know them. Try not to act the judgment, I suppose. Sorry for long. I'm like the kid now, I talk too much.
You have heard of the term love at first sight?
That's lust.
So these things this is a English expression. These things used to happen when the genders had not met, they were secluded largely. So the first time a young girl with her parents in a carriage, she was going, and you looked at her, she looked at you like this. It's been a long time since you saw a girl's face. Instantly, okay. But that doesn't happen anymore because they're always around you. You take your time, which is a good thing. So, I don't think you should make any impression of anything or anybody just by simply looking at it once, unless you have become such a mystic that if you see, you just know, okay? Why I'm saying this is, see, I spend a whole lot of my time and life just paying attention to things. Because when I was very young, I realized, when I was just 4.5 years of age, I realized I don't know anything. Because I don't know anything, I started paying attention to everything, smallest things. If I find a pebble, I will be looking at it for hours. If I find a leaf, I will be looking at it for many hours. If I sit on my bed in the darkness, I'm just staring at the darkness for the whole night. My dear father, being a physician, he started thinking, I need psychiatric evaluation.
I started his inner engineering book, actually. I was washing something, let's just put it that way, and I don't know how far I got. I got to a lot of the intro part, and he started talking. He talked a lot about this, like a lot of things he explained there. He's repeating right here, which is kind of funny though. And I will say the things he says in the book, you kind of question the fact that whether he's mentally there or not. But in what I was thinking is, whenever he said that, where he's staring at pebbles, he's staring at leaves, at least in America, I'm sure maybe in most Western worlds, or just say developed nations probably, if they see that in you, they'll think you have ADHD or think there's something wrong with you. I mean, sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't, but it's just when you act weird, they're going to be maybe a little bit suspicious, maybe a little bit worried. Worried is fine, but you know, if it seems like, at least in the Western world, that medicine tends to be the solution to everything. If you have ADHD, you take medicine so that you're not hyper and looking at all these other things, instead of it being something, a way a person is developing. Some people tend to be hyperactive, some people tend to be calm, some people tend to be expressive, and anything outside of a normal calm is going to be looked at suspiciously and being solved by medicines.
Because this boy is simply staring at something for hours on end without blinking, it looks like he's lost his mind. My problem is, I look at this and I don't know what this is, so I'm not able to shift my eyes to that. So I just stay with this. This went on like this, and in this condition they sent me to school. My mother said, "You must pay attention to the teacher." I went and paid attention to the teacher. The kind of attention they would have never received in their life.
They just stared at the teacher all day.
About 9 years ago, this school where I studied almost 45 years ago, they invited me for their 125th anniversary. The trustees came to invite me. I said, "See, why me? Because I was not just a not good student, I was not even a student. I only went to school when it was a must. Most of the time nobody noticed me and I just vanished somewhere. So I said, why me? I'm not a good example for your students." They said, "Our school has produced union ministers, our school has produced cricketing stars, film stars, you are the only mystic, you must come." I said, "Okay." And I went there.
Oh, no.
I stood up to speak in the quadrangle, I just looked around, the same oppressive buildings. You have a fantastic, a campus. It's a fortune, because it's not just about education, it's about living in a certain atmosphere is a very important thing for learning. So these are city schools which are like that. Then I looked at this classroom and I suddenly remembered, I was just 12 years of age. One afternoon, the teacher is trying to get some response from me. Those days I'm made like this, for many days I won't utter a single word. When you don't know anything, what to say? I'm still trying to drink up the world, nothing to say. So this man is asking question, I'm just looking at him. After some time, I don't even hear what he's saying. If I look at him, I know his past, present and future. I can tell him everything about his life, but I don't know what the hell he's talking. Because I never listen to anybody, I just look at them. So, if you're able to look at people like that, then it's okay. Otherwise, definitely looking at the appearance of a person if you're making judgment, or appearance of a situation if you're making a judgment, especially you're going to be lawyers. By looking at what people are saying, if you make a judgment, they will be telling all kinds of stories to you. So you never make any impression. You need to delve into certain things. So whether it's individual people or situations, aspects of life or decisions we need to make, it's best that we get the maximum input out of whatever we are looking at, because otherwise we will go on regretting what we have done. People who spend time in regret…
Maybe even what we haven't done too, maybe? I mean, there's a lot of people… There's a saying… Is there a saying? Maybe in my mind there's a saying that make sure you do the things that you want to do so that you don't regret not doing it later. I'm pretty sure that might be a saying, I'm not sure though.
They won't do much in life because it consumes so much energy.
Yeah.
A related question, there's sometimes we have these certain instincts in us that direct us to do certain things, popularly known as gut feelings. So do you think the youth must act on these gut feelings or should we reject it? What is your take on gut feelings and instincts?
Wow. What is my take on that? Gut feelings and instincts. Well, you know, man, some people have it, some people don't. You gotta find out the hard way, I guess. You know, there's no way to like take a blood test or something. Like, yeah, your gut instincts is 95. 95. That's nice. Out of 1 billion. Oh, okay. Never mind. I mean, that is interesting. A gut feeling or instinct. I mean, dude, that's just, I don't know. Some people, like I said, some people have it, some people don't. But generally speaking, whenever you have a gut feeling and you're right, you're like, oh my gosh, I trust my gut. I should trust my gut more often. But you don't really necessarily remember if you get it wrong. If you get a balance, you probably don't remember either way. But whew, that's interesting.
There is something called as gut feeling, and there is also something called as being shit scared, you know. So when people don't know which way to go, some things move in their gut. Don't understand always that as some kind of an intuition or some kind of an insight into life. Most people feel their guts only when you say he has guts, means what? His guts didn't move. So fear is considered gut feeling by a whole lot of people, don't go by that. But there is a certain… In the yogic culture, today modern science is also recognizing this, in the yogic culture, we identify a certain dimension of intelligence in the stomach. A certain dimension of intelligence means, if we have to… This is what I'm going to say is very simplistic. If you find loopholes, you ask question, otherwise I will pass, okay? If you ask questions, I will cover those loopholes, but because I'm saying it in such a brief manner, there will be loopholes. See, you eat a piece of bread, within a few hours, it gets transformed into a human being, isn't it so? Is it a tremendous amount of intelligence? Hello? If I can take a piece of bread in my hand and make this into a human being, who do you think I am? Hello? Creator himself, isn't it? Must be God. If I can take a piece of bread and make it into a human being, this is it. This you're doing in your stomach. Obviously, there is a certain dimension of intelligence. It is not in the form of thought, but it's a different it's not intellect, but it's an intelligence. Is there a way to access that intelligence? Yes. Even if a drop of that intelligence enters your life, you will do things magically, not miserably. If you do things only with your logic, everything becomes quite miserable because you will have to go through logical steps for everything. You will not know anything just by looking at it. So, it is important to develop that dimension of intelligence, but as I said, whenever there is confusion and fear, people will feel a pit in the stomach. That should not be understood as the gut, intelligence of the gut.
Well, the thing that I understood about the gut is that I do remember some people saying that there is a brain gut or something like that. Basically, your brain doesn't tell you when you're hungry or anything. It's actually your gut that does. And I'm like, I guess that's true. I mean, I've not heard too much other than the fact that, you know, there is an entire biome in your stomach, obviously, because it breaks down all the food, and it's your stomach that generally tells you that you're hungry and not your brain. Your brain just says, oh, you're hungry? Okay, I'll send out the signal.
So Sadhguru, the next two, three questions revolve around this…
Yeah, as a lawyer, you shouldn't warn me, what is the next question? You must shoot.
So the broad theme of the next two, three questions revolves around the concept of nationalism, of allegiance to the country. So my question basically concerns your response to Gautam Gambhir's question, wherein Gautam Gambhir was of the opinion that people should be compelled to stand up for the national anthem, and he was surprised as to how this was even a topic of debate. As I understand, you agreed with him, with the only qualifier being that if somebody is disabled, he should not be forced. And…
I'm not looking at it… Please complete the question. I'm not looking at it so simplistic, but…
So, Sadhguru, my question is that should we not allow people to find out what their own interpretations of loyalty and allegiance are? I mean, we walk unaffected when women are raped. We walk unaffected when women are raped. We stop Dalits from entering public facilities. There are so many injustices that we do.
So we can do one more.
No, I mean, just because we go to the cinema and before gangs of Wasipur, we stand up for the national anthem. How does that become the criteria for having allegiance to the nation, of being a patriot to the nation?
Okay, so actually that's quite an interesting one, and I do agree to some degree what he says. I mean, just standing up for a national anthem doesn't say that you're faithful or allegiant to a country. I mean, liars lie all the time about what they're faithful about, and whatever is factual to them, they can just make up a lie and just pretend that's fact. So standing up to a national anthem doesn't necessarily show your allegiance, but I mean, I don't know how to answer that question, because that is something that's a lot of people in the United. Well, I don't say a lot of people, but there are some people in the United States that says, when the national anthem, you should stand and all that. And that was actually kind of a debate, kind of a big debate that happened in this past few years, actually. And it's kind of weird too. It's a very difficult question to answer. If you're in maybe like a ballpark, for example, I'm guessing maybe cricket might be, I don't know if they do it there or not, football, baseball, they kind of all do it, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the world has seen the football incidents where people are kneeling. The way I look at it is in terms of standing up for the national anthem. And do I believe people should stand for it? I think so. And the reason why is because while America, and I can only speak on America itself, while America is not a perfect country, it has achieved quite a lot in such a young age. I think it's only, I don't know, don't quote me, 200 to 400 years old, somewhere around there. It's probably closer to 300, not sure. So in about 300 years, which is probably the youngest country, maybe one of the youngest country at the very least, it's achieved quite a bit in such a short time. And in that short time, America has tried to do good. There's no doubt there, I don't believe. And there's a lot of people who sacrificed their life to make this country better. I mean, during the American Revolution, African slaves fought for the North to try to free, to I guess get rid of slavery in the South, and they represent the American flag, but so does the South. Everything that has happened in the United States throughout its entirety of history, all the good and all the bad, is represented in that flag. We have to acknowledge all the good and all the bad, and we have to take pride in the fact that that America has come that far. And while no country is perfect, I don't know if there's any country that's out there that's perfect, especially if there might be, especially if the country is as diverse as America is. We have Chinese people, Japanese people, Indian people, Filipinos, Taiwanese, Malaysian, we have German, French, basically every freaking country is in America. I mean, it's you think majority white, but what is white exactly? That's French, German, British, Sweden, Ireland, every freaking European Union is in America. You have Native Americans, you have Mexicans, you have Hispanic people in general, you have South Americans up in here, so it's like it's quite diverse for what it is. And only 300 million people around here, somewhere around there, 300 to 400 million. Again, to have a country so vast with a whole bunch of different religions, a whole bunch of different cultures, a whole bunch of different people from other countries, it has tried to do better. And I think that is something that we should be proud of. I think that is something we should respect from the flag. Now, am I going to sit here and say that you have to stand up for the flag? No. The only thing, I guess, and this is something that I've also seen some soldiers say, the one that served in the military, say, like, hey, you know, we fight for your freedom, so you have the right to do whatever you want. So if you, I don't know how extreme they went, but what they said about, oh, you want to kneel for the flag, then that's the right that we fought for, which I have mad respect for that. But I just hope people understand that what that flag stands for is for their freedoms, the freedoms they have now, their freedoms to do what they're able to do in this country. Again, country not perfect, absolutely not, but it's worked. I want to say it works so hard to get to where it is, and it's because of the people. Again, I'm sure other countries. I don't know the history of other countries. Not even my birth country, honestly. But I do know some of the history in America, and it's not perfect. I hope the people who do kneel for the flag, although kneeling I think is a bad idea, because that's generally, in my opinion, you're being submissive to the flag like you're a slave. Because if you're kneeling for a king, you're kneeling for a flag, but different story. If you stand, you are in salute with it, though, however. So, anyways, but, you know, went on a rant there. But yeah, I understand no country's perfect. Every country's working towards to be better. America is no different from any other country for the most part. I mean, it's besides the fact that it's so young, and it's so young, super young, I think, and it has achieved quite a lot, and it's something to be proud of for sure. Any country that's done good, obviously, to be proud of. But I don't know. That is and of course I'm against force, so you can't just say, oh, you have to stand up or anything like that, you know. And also the military people, yeah, that's absolutely my point of view too, is the fact that I have this conflict of opinion where, you know, the military has fought for your freedom. They basically are representing the flag, and if you're disrespecting the flag, you're disrespecting the military people. But the military people is also saying, some of them, not all of them, that that's what they're fighting for, is for you to be able to disrespect everything about America, and that is your freedom, which is pretty true. It's kind of weird, isn't it? You disrespect them. There are some people out who disrespect America because they have that America provides them that freedom, and they're disrespecting it as though it's something to throw away and they don't care about. And when they look at other countries who do not have these freedoms, they don't realize, and that's my problem with it's so far as Western countries, but I think it's a developed nation thing, is that they grew up in such luxuries that they don't understand what true oppression is, because they have so much freedom. They think they can do anything because they can, in a lot of sense, and at least in America, and they have protections, and they're throwing away that protection in a sense. That's some people, very few, I think, pretty sure. Anyways, let's continue on. I talk way too much. Oh God.
Looks like it's a very popular question. See, let's look at it this way. A nation, when we say a nation, all nations on the planet are not in the same state of development, evolution, and social and other realities are not in the same state. Looking at India as a nation, we are trying to make this a nation. Still there is no real nation, because still a whole lot of people are identified with their caste, creed, many things, with their community, many things.
And that's another thing too, is the fact that I asked this of my friend, like, point to a nation that's perfect or close to perfect, and point to a nation that is just large, diverse. I think that's about it. Large and diverse. I think there are only two criteria that I had. It has to be large and diverse. If it's small, then it's pretty easy to develop the country, because it's kind of like maintaining a house. Imagine you have a one-bedroom house. It's easy to clean a one-bedroom house. Now imagine you have a 23-bedroom house, a mansion. Cleaning all the rooms is gonna be difficult. And that's another thing that, yeah, exactly. It's kind of like in America too. Oddly enough, is there's, we still there's still loyalty to the states. There's still this grudge of the past, and probably going on in still some parts of America. People are loyal to their communities, to their race, to their states, to their locals, to their whatever. And America is such a big country as well, so it's very difficult to control in a sense. And it's the same thing with India as well. It's a massive country. It's very difficult for governments to control. What I mean by control, I don't mean just like, oh, telling everyone what to do. It's more along the lines providing certain services in certain areas, because if there's not enough people there, they can't provide a service. It's going to cost more to provide a service in that area, especially people who live out in mountains or live out by themselves, and the next person is like, I don't know how to convert it to kilometers, but we'll just say we'll say the closest person is like 20 miles away, or say 60 kilometers away. That's your neighbor. It's literally that far away. You can't put services in these areas because it costs too much money to run that service, and it's only supporting like 5 people. And that's the reason why large countries, I do believe, to struggle. If you have a small country, it's a lot easier. Everyone's a lot closer together. It's a lot easier to provide services. People can just drive to the service, like 20-minute drive to the nearest service area of whatever service it may be. So having a very large country and having a very diverse country, especially diverse in thought and culture and region and whatever else it may be, the more things that it's diverse in, the more difficult it has with uniting, because there's so many differences. Not only are they not from the country, not only do they have a different skin color, not only do they have a different religion, not only do they have a different culture. I mean, all these things are differences that's pulling the country apart. That's why I say, again, smaller countries tend to have very similar culture, very similar religion, very similar ideas, because the country's not big enough to support that much diversity. So a very big country generally will be very diverse because they're so spread out. So the further apart a village is, or a city, or a town, or metropolis, will generally have their own type of culture. I'm sure the eastern western border of the United States tend to be like, well, in the eastern border you tend to have more European things because it's closer to Europe. Western border you tend to have more Asian things because it's closer to Asia. So you have those two cultures. Then you have the Middle East, the Southeast, the Midwest, the Southwest. I mean, South you have mixture between French, Hispanic, and then the new kind of culture that's blended between all of those things. It's more difficult to have a united country if there's so much diversity, so many different thoughts and processes and cultures and everything. There has to be a commonality where all of them can unite on. There has to be more commonality for things to work and unite. If there's more differences, it's gonna break apart, I do believe.
Because we are yet to make a nation out of it. We should have done it early on after 1947, but we did not do that work properly. As you said, discrimination is there based on your caste. That means we've not made a nation yet. You are a separate nation, I am separate nation, isn't it? Just because of your birth. So if you want to make this a nation, there are certain tools, certain symbols, certain acts, and anthem is one of them. That we are trying to make a nation out of this. And we are a nation where 500 million people have not eaten properly. Largest number of malnourished people on the planet, unfortunately, in our country. Nearly 60% of rural population in India, their skeletal system has not grown to full size, they are all like this, compressed. Desiccated life, underdeveloped life we are generating. But we have debates about whether we should stand up or sit down when the anthem happens.
Man, it's just so relatable, those issues. We have issues, maybe not as bad, I don't know. I mean, 500 million, man, you got the United States population beat by just that alone. I think we have close to 400, or I don't know how much. But no, similar stupid things being debated in the United States as well. It's just, it's I don't know. Here's another famous phrase: "First world problems," as they say. It's not a compliment. It's so ridiculously stupid. If you wanna think a problem is stupid, just say it's a first world problem. Because it's kind of like people who order something, and because they forgot to add the 6th ice cube to it and only have 5 in there, you start complaining and blowing up like it's the end of the world because the 6th ice cube is not in there. First world problems right there. Stupid stuff. It looks like you guys have the same problems we do, or India has the same problems as we do. Debating over, I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes they do make a point, and they try to address a point, which is a good thing, and it has debated across, but I don't know, I wish they could have done it in a different way as well. National anthem should be something that we all unite under, like he was saying. We should be uniting under something. That's what I was talking about earlier. If there's some commonality where we can all unite, the more things we have in common versus being diverse, the more we can unite together. It's kind of like having your friend. Great example. The more things you have in common with that friend, the closer you are with that person, are you not? The more differences you have, you're like, I'll see you about 25 years, maybe. You don't generally hang out with people you don't have a lot of things in common with. So that's the same thing with the nation. This is my theory, or my belief system, is the fact that if it applies to an individual, it must be able to expand out into to an individual, to 2 people, to a family, to a city, to a state, to a country, to the world. It must something that can expand and contract to the individual, to the greater people. Now, hey, look, I'm willing to throw that test out there. If you can find a way to defeat that thing, I am all ears, because so far all my beliefs goes to the individual first and then expands out. So it basically, when it protects the individual, it generally protects the group, the country, the people, or whatever, however it expands out. So freedom of speech, for example, if it protects one person's ability to speak whatever he has in his mind, then that applies to the group as well. It applies to everyone, because that one individual, every person is an individual in that group. Therefore, it protects their freedom of speech. It's a group. Because of the individual, it protects the group. Now, if you say, oh, it protects a group of people, just say, I don't know, Asian people, or Hispanic people, or maybe people with blonde hair, or maybe people with, I don't know, 9 fingers, then you're not including people who have a 10th finger, or people who have black hair, or people who are other nationalities. That's the reason why my belief anyway, when it protects the individual, it generally expands out. It has to expand out. Let's continue on. I talk too much.
All right. Simply because we've lost our humanity. I'll come to this. And we have issues with our sovereignty. Somebody is always trying to gobble part of what you call as India. That itself is not settled. We don't know where our borders are. Yes? And you and me are sitting here today comfortably talking about many things simply because there are men who are standing there who are willing to die for this nation.
And, hold on, let me reposition real quick. That's another thing, is the fact that, again, like I said in many other videos, that the United States sits so comfortably in the other side of the world, away from where all the real tragedies are happening. We're bordered with Mexico and Canada. Canada and the United States are very similar. We get along. There's no real trouble there. Mexico, not real trouble either. I mean, they import a lot of drugs, and I've heard import drugs and kidnapping at the borders. That's the reason why we have borders. And I mean, that's the worst. It's not a war. There is kind of like a drug war out there, I'm sure, mostly in Mexico, and it can cross the border sometimes. But I mean, that's the worst of it. And there's people who don't see that on an everyday basis. So they think life is fine and dandy. Because again, it's mostly upper middle class. I think that's my theory, not fact. People who have so much money, they go to great schools, they have comfortable lives, they have wonderful neighborhoods, no real trouble anywhere, and their only struggle in life is whether they want a caramel macchiato or I don't know what other drink is, because the reason why I know that drink is because my boss likes that drink, so I say that because that's the only drink I know. I don't go out and buy drinks because I can't necessarily afford them. The only time I go out and get drinks is usually on their birth month. They send you like a $15 gift card to go spend somewhere. That's when I treat myself. But yeah, a lot of the upper middle class people, they don't see the struggle, so they think everyone's living like they are because that's all they see. I can't exactly blame them because everyone thinks the world is. Do I say that? I think a lot of people believe that what they see around them is what's going on in the world, probably, especially if they're not exposed to news and other things. And then that's even bad too, because if you watch the news and they have a very biased point of view, then not only are you have your own biased point of view, which is your surrounding, but you have this other biased point of view, which is the news. And if that's the only news you watch, then you have only one perspective. Well, two perspectives: your surroundings and the news. And that's what a lot of people just don't understand. Or I don't want to say a lot of people. There are just some people out there who don't understand that. There are people out there who want open borders and don't understand the struggle that's going on in the borders. I would not doubt that there is kidnappings and drug passes going through the borders. It's just that you don't see it in the news at all. So therefore, these people who want open borders think that everyone's friendly and everyone's for good and everyone's all happy and dandy, but they don't understand the realities of life. I talk too much. Let me just continue on.
If you don't like it, it's fine. There are men and women who are willing to die for this nation. Every day they're dying. You may be seeing it as statistic, but unfortunately, they have wives, they have children, they have families.
And that's another thing too, is these people don't see tragedies like these wars, border fights, even along our borders, and they take things for granted. I guess that's the biggest thing. It's the fact that they take their freedoms for granted. What America has provided for them as an individual. They don't realize how good they have it. I'm not saying that America is the best country in the world. Hell, it's up there, I'm guessing. It's pretty good as far as I'm concerned. Is it better than my home country? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my home country, my birth country, let me say that first. My birth country, but I would not want to go out. I'd love to stay around my family, and that's about it. I would not go anywhere, practically. And here, it's relatively safe, depending on where you live, obviously. That applies to about every country anyway. But there's more relatively safe locations in America than unsafe locations, compared to, say, like my birth country, which I'm not too sure. I haven't been there in a little bit. And things I hear going on over there is kind of crazy. Anyways, I just wish people could learn to appreciate the freedoms and opportunities that they're provided and given on the country. I'm not a nationalist per se, but we have to understand the freedoms, the comforts, I don't know how to describe it, the goodness, however you see that, what your country provides. Appreciate it, really appreciate it. I'm not saying that you don't fight against your own country in a sense, because there are obviously going to be some corruption or some bad things that happen, and we must fight to better our country. But take pride, don't It's very difficult. This is a very difficult question, but don't appreciate what your country provides for you. Fight for the betterment. Don't not appreciate your country. Appreciate the freedoms that it provides for you. Appreciate the good things it provides for you. Understand that there are worse things out there. There are worse countries out there. Just leave it at that.
A man who stands there willing to stake his life, willing to make his wife into a widow, willing to make his children into orphans, at least please tell him, we don't care a damn for this nation, you also come back, what are you guarding against? Why should a man stand there guarding this nation when we are not willing to stand up for a simple symbol of the nationhood? It is 52 seconds, it's a shame. Now, the kind of arguments people are creating is, what if somebody is handicapped? Arey, don't we have that much sense? If somebody is handicapped, we will not ask him to stand up? What nonsense is this? He can sit like this, he can sit like this, showing some expression for the nation. Nation has to evolve. If this nation in the next 25 years comes to a place where all citizens in this country are well-nourished, we can bring down our nationalism and patriotism by 25%. If in another 15, 20 years or 25 years, if everybody is well-employed, well-to-do, nation is bursting with prosperity, then you can bring it down to 50%. Someday if you come to such an egalitarian situation where there is no caste, no creed, no discrimination, gender, caste, creed doesn't matter, we are all just boom. If you come to that stage, we can talk about dissolving the nation and making nation into a global possibility. But without understanding the realities, when your sovereignty is not fixed, when you don't know where the hell your border is of this nation and half the people have not eaten properly, you are talking about in one hand popcorn, one hand Coca-Cola and you can't stand up. No, this is not okay. This is not okay. This is not a question of nationalism, this is a question of your humanity.
Oh man, that's oof. I wonder what some Americans would have said whenever they supported was it Kaepernick? Again, so military people support him. Some, not all. Obviously, there are military people who said he should have stand up. You know, obviously, again, I keep going back to the fact that yeah, no nation is perfect. Not it. People look at America as like a great country. It's a good country, obviously. It's one of the top countries, I'm sure. But it's the sheer fact that it's still not perfect. No country. I don't think any country will ever be perfect. Now, unless you talk about like a small country that somehow exports a lot of stuff that everyone wants and has unlimited supply of that, or hoards it or whatever, and it's very small, where one tower will cover the entire country of cellular service and one hospital is enough to cover the entire country because it's only 5 minutes away. You can literally look out your window, there's the hospital, no matter where you're at in the country. That is a tiny country. Then yeah, you can provide one hospital, one police department, one fire department, one road. They're just going a circle. and everyone can use that, then yeah, that's going to be a lot easy. That's a country that's very easy to maintain, and it's so small that everyone is practically your neighborhood. Is your country. Imagine your neighborhood that has a fire department, police department, hospital, one cell tower because everyone's covered. I don't know what else that's needed, but yeah, it's so easy to manage. You can see everyone, you know everyone. Everyone has roughly the same culture because everyone lives together. Everyone has the rough same idea and everyone wants the same goal. It's so easy to maintain a very small country. When you talk about a big country, it's very difficult. Oh my gosh, I talk way too much and it's already an hour into this and we're only 21 minutes into this thing. Anyways, well, that's part one. I guess this is going to be a long one. Alright, so that's it for this part. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.